This is delightful. I'm so glad we came here. Feel those vibrations at Camp Video Games. Good morning, Camp Video Games. This is Junior Counselor Sean, joined, as always, by Junior Counselor Josh.
Hello, I'm also awake in here. Morning.
Good morning, Junior Counselor Josh.
Hello.
We are here to talk about Episode 8 of The Legend of Zelda cartoon series, Underworld Connections. This is another Bob Forward joint. It's another foray into the magical land of Hyrule. And just at the top, we're going to say this is a pretty good episode. It's some classic Zelda adventuring, battling. We got dungeon crawling. We got a magical compass. We've got all sorts of absolutely classic, Zelda content coming in.
I am here. I'm alive and happy to talk about this episode because this is a expansion of what you would have been imagining in the abstract happening when you play Zelda. These are when this show works the best. Episodes like this one.
Yes.
For sure.
There's no attempted... Well, there's attempts at comedy, but it's not distracting from the actual feeling of adventure and discovery and... I don't know, just that classic struggle between Hyrule and Ganon's forces. Like, we just see this as like another chapter in the battle for the Triforces. And
right.
that's the good stuff.
And some classic dungeon crawling. Yeah, but yeah, that's the broad strokes, but get us on into it.
So
let's dive in.
First and foremost, Underworld Connections. I don't really see that. Well, I actually think I can come around at the end of the episode as to why that title makes sense.
Well,
it's not what you would
in...
think. It's not like Underworld Connection. It's like, yeah, I've got a guy. Like, we can get an eighth real quick, no problem. Like,
yeah. Well, and we're gonna find out quickly that there's a piece of lore established about the Triforce.
Yeah.
And how it's can connect to other places it's been split to. We'll get into that.
Yes,
quickly.
well put though. Thank you for putting that into words. Okay, this episode starts off. Link is sleepwalking. And okay, what do we see in episode 1 of the cartoon? We just see that the animators have a fixation, almost like an obsessive desire to tease the audiences with an upskirt of Link.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah. His jammy shirt is very short, always.
It's
and
short.
We see him in him just an inordinate amount throughout this very short series.
It's very strange, man. We're in episode 8, and we've seen... Is this the second time we've seen it so far? The second episode we've seen Link in his jammies?
I want to say it's like the third or fourth.
Yeah. I'm sure we could scrub through real... we're not going to do it, but, Link, apparently... you spend 1/3 of your life in bed, so get a nice bed.
And at least a third of the episodes then should be about Link and his jammies.
So if we've got if we had a 12 episode run, I know we got 13, but I'm doing some simple math here. If we had 4 episodes just dedicated to Link sleeping,
yeah,
and we could show maybe if he's got sleep apnea, or maybe he do you think Link sleeps on his stomach or on his side or on his back, or is he kind of a twister and turner? You know what? More importantly, Josh, what are you?
Oh, absolutely on my right side.
On your right side.
I cannot sleep otherwise.
How
also, to answer that question, he starts on his back.
Okay, cool.
In Frankenstein sleepwalk pose.
Yeah. So I sleep on my back, by the way, campers. Sometimes without a pillow, even. I just sleep.
You vampiric sicko.
What do you have? If you're sleeping on your side, do you have a pillow between your legs?
Oh, I do. I have I am okay. So the pillow between the legs, I can live without it.
I hope so.
If I have to get through a night without a pillow between my legs, I can live without it. But it's just like at some point, I convinced myself it's like good and it like keeps my hips even or something.
It does.
And like, so now if I'm at home in my comfy bed setup, there is a pillow that is my in between the legs pillow.
Now
I'm not like a weird sicko. They talk about this on like my brother and me.
Yeah.
For anybody who's familiar. And they like, I think it's Griffin that they sometimes pick on, who like needs like this whole fancy mountainous array of pillows to sleep.
Yeah.
I'm not quite that bad. I just need two, and I have to sleep on my right side.
Okay. Do you prefer? I'm sorry, but do you prefer a firmer pillow or a softer, thinner pillow?
Okay, we're getting into a little more into what a weird sick freak I am. I have like a fancy pillow that is designed to cradle like the curvature of your neck.
Yeah.
Whether you're on your side or your back.
Nice.
It's a very odd pillow. Like it has to be in a certain arrangement to work right.
Well, as previously mentioned on the show, I sleep with a gun under my head.
Yes.
So,
yeah. Which is probably the better.
Oh yeah.
The deeper, more safe, feeling comforted sleep.
It's in case I have bad dreams.
So you just Frankenstein wake up and start shooting 2 feet away from your wife.
It's like a dream catcher, except it's a bullet giver.
Yeah. Anyway,
so
back to the
Link, he starts sleepwalking and he grabs a bow.
Does exactly what I just said.
Yeah. He grabs a bow and just starts shooting. He's got a bow with an arrow tied like to some rope, and he shoots it at Zelda's tower, which is like across like they're a distance apart.
Yeah.
And
Fun little detail there is
Yeah.
that they make sure that the arrow hits the open like side hinge of the wooden door and not the stone. Because like some 8-year-old's gonna be like, actually an arrow would not stick in stone.
Well, if you used a titanium tipped arrow, it actually would if it had enough velocity. So, okay, Link he Frankenstein sleepwalks on that tightrope that he's just created. He's apparently he's having dreams of being a zombie, or maybe of escaping a town of angry pitchfork wielding townsfolk.
Yeah.
That's a Frankenstein.
Well, I
thing.
want to invite you to quickly reiterate what you did during the commentary. Normally, the commentary is just us making dumb jokes, but you actually explained the lore of where the arms out Frankenstein sleepwalk comes from.
Yeah.
Because I actually thought about that watching the episode before you explained it. I was like, why did everybody do this same arms out thing to represent sleepwalking, zombie walking, Frankenstein walking?
The first time we see Frankenstein's monster, walking with his arms stretched out, the way that people always do it when they're pretending to be the monster. And I'm actually not certain which specific movie it is in the classic Universal black and white monster series with Boris Karloff playing Frankenstein. It's a monster. Sorry.
No, it's also
he's a dang.
I'm establishing
Frankenstein.
canon. It's okay to just call it a Frankenstein. We all know it's Frankenstein's monster. You can just call it a Frankenstein.
I think Mary Shelley even was like, you can just call him a Frankenstein. It doesn't matter. But
it's like the way it's like calling something a Ford. It's a guy's name, but it's a brand too.
Yeah.
Anything made under that guy's name, it's a Ford.
So I believe it's Frankenstein meets the Wolfman, which is a fantastic movie. It starts off with Frankenstein's monster has been frozen in ice, and he gets thawed out, and as a result, he's blind after being revived from the ice. So the monster has now kind of gone into he first died. Well, whatever. The brain died. It was put into a new body, and it was brought back to life by Dr. Frankenstein. The townsfolk chase him off, and in the end of the movie, the monster is in I think it's a windmill, and it burns to the ground, and the monster was inside of it, and underneath the rubble of the windmill, he's frozen in ice, and he's blind, and that when he's walking around with his arms outstretched, it's because he's literally just trying to feel around and find where he's going. That was a lot of explanation for the first 5 seconds of this cartoon.
No, but I just think it is an interesting piece of lore that
because now it's seeped into pop culture.
There's like this mimetic trope of walking like that. Yeah, represents sleepwalking and all those other things I listed. That it's fun to understand.
Yes,
like, there's an origin story for those things.
Campers, I'm going to give you another camp video games film recommendation. If you want to watch some old black and white monster movies, I think it's better to watch The Bride of Frankenstein than the first Frankenstein. It's a much more interesting movie, and it covers basically the same ground and adds more to it. But then after that one, Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman, I've watched that several times. It's extremely good. It's got great atmosphere. There's even a musical number in the middle of it. It's a bunch of Germans singing about like spring wine. It's great. It's very charming. And you've
sounds like the inspiration for like the Putting on the Ritz musical bit in Young Frankenstein, maybe.
I hadn't even thought of that. It's like in okay, we are going to talk about Zelda soon. But in Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman, so Lon Chaney Jr. is playing. Oh God, I used to know the character's name. Who's the Wolfman? But he's not always a Wolfman. He's a man that turns into a wolf on a full moon. And yeah, Lon Chaney Jr. Is traveling through Germany where Frankenstein takes place, and it's like a spring festival in Germany where they drink the freshly made wine. So it's very young wine. If you understand how fermentation works, the longer into fermentation, the more alcohol content the wine will yield as all the available sugar is digested and transferred into alcohol. But so young wine is typically very low ABV, so people drink it in great quantities, and it's a little bit sweet. Yeah. So it's a perfect like festival wine.
Yeah. Like where the term like session.
Exactly.
Booze comes from.
Yeah, like a session IPA or whatever. It's a typically lower ABV alcohol by volume. Yeah. If you're not a mixologist.
This is the camp part of camp video. Yeah. You don't get this kind of wisdom from some nerd who just lives on the internet all day. You need a farmer's review of Zelda to get these great details.
You know what? I'm going to use this as an opportunity while it's on my mind to give you some of the inspiration behind the camp video games as a whole. Okay, like this is some bigger picture talk of this project that
why not?
I came up with the idea for camp video games in 2015, and originally it was a response to all, because I love watching streamers. I love watching people speedrun games or just casually play through stuff that I've never played before or that I've played a million times, and I just need that comfort zone. But the thing that always bothered me is that every one of these streamers that I watch, they're always just like in their office or in their living room or in their bedroom or their computer room if they're old. And like, I thought it would be great to have one streamer who's just in the middle of the wilderness and like filming, like where there's a photo, or there's a in the corner of the screen there's them, the camera pointed right at the gamer, and then the rest of the screen you see the video game playing. I always thought it'd be great just to be like you're sitting like in a camping chair by a fire, much like we're doing right now, and you get to see like maybe like a squirrel just walks by, or you hear the babbling brook beneath, and just the dichotomy of like, you can still play video games in nature, and it's not recommended if you're trying to get like that like calm peace and serenity, but like if you live in nature like I do, like it's nice to like have that like that stark contrast between technology and the natural world.
Yeah. Well, since we're showing how the sausage is made, I'll just add my caveat to it that I like to try to bring is that I don't like YouTube voice. I don't like,
hey everybody, it's the Super Mario Bros.
I tried watching. I'll state here, this is the first time we've recorded since Tears of the Kingdom has come out.
Yeah.
And I just. Even though I've been gorging Zelda nonstop for the past like 2 months while we've been recording this, now I'm gorging Tears of the Kingdom content, and I'm just like, I want more.
Yeah.
And so like last night I was trying to listen to like IGN's doing a series of like their Nintendo team is just talking Tears of the Kingdom, and it's just like that broadcaster, I'm on air, like character voice, and like I just want people to just like chill, like that feel like more like chilling with your boys, you know.
Perhaps like the vibe we're trying to give off here.
Yeah, that's what I like to try to bring to it. Like it's still like, hey, you know, I've done a lot of podcasts, I've worked in radio, I got a vibe for how to talk on a mic, but like I just don't like the like, hey guys, blah 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 here, blah, 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 unraveling, blah, blah, and it's just it's nails on a chalkboard to me.
The market is oversaturated with that type of presentation.
Yeah,
and I think people are ready for a bit more authenticity.
You said maybe 5 minutes ago we'll get back to talking Zelda. Maybe now's a good opportunity to get to it. He was climbing across Frankenstein walking.
He was tightrope walking, and so he gets over to Zelda's tower, and Zelda splashes Link with a goblet of milk. I just gotta assume it's milk. And he wakes up, nearly falls to his death, and here he comes with a sick line for Zelda. I had to write this quote down. Whether I'm awake or asleep, you're the girl of my dreams.
Yeah,
and
he tried. He really tried his best.
Well, dude, like it kind of worked because Zelda. I described this. Okay, Zelda almost Spider-Man kisses Link because she's upside down doing the Spider-Man kiss to Mary Jane, right? You know that classic one in the alley. Yeah. But guess what? They get interrupted. There's no smooching today.
Nope.
No smooches for Link. No smooches for Zelda.
Okay, can I? I'm gonna derail with one more.
Yes.
One more like other sort of media connection and critique, and this one's a wild one.
Go for it.
Because you mentioned milk.
Okay, where's this going?
Because you mentioned milk, and it is true that like she throws a white substance on him that like some of it's just the nature of cartoons and animation that it is like a it seems like a sticky frothy thing. I'm not about to talk about cum, believe it or not.
Boing.
Are you familiar? This was something that came up when Get Out was released.
Okay.
And I don't know if Jordan Peele explicitly said this is why he used milk or if this was like connections people made. But around that time and historically, like there's... Well, okay, so in the movie there's a scene where the girlfriend, spoiler alert, turns out to be like kind of the bad guy who lures her boyfriend in, is just like creepily drinking a pure white glass of milk.
Okay.
And it's supposed to be like this weird, subtle symbol of like white supremacy.
Okay, sure.
Of like
Interesting.
the purity of white milk. And it's like has precedent outside of just that movie that I don't recall right now. But like... just like the connection I'm making is we've been joking all along of like Zelda being sort of like her first priority is to like the monarchy, which is sort of like the stand-in for white supremacy.
You think this is a dog whistle for Zelda being a white supremacist?
I'm saying if you really want to, you can read it that way.
Okay. Interesting. You know what? Today's an episode for sidebars.
This is what I love to do. But anyway, keep going.
In Halloween Ends, the most recent in the Halloween series featuring like Michael Myers and Laurie Strode with by Jamie Lee Curtis, the new killer in some ways of Halloween Ends is he's constantly about to drink chocolate milk before something stops him from doing it. It's almost like the Smooches in this show, where the character's name is Corey Cunningham. And if another recommendation, like Halloween Ends got a lot of flack because Michael Myers, the killer from the franchise, is not that prevalent in it. It's a freaking ding dang masterpiece, in my opinion, of modern horror films, or at least of modern slasher films. I wouldn't say it's scary, but I'd say it's very effective. And yeah, it seems so weird that this like 20-year-old guy is always trying to drink chocolate milk. Cause like basically once I was like out of like grade school, I stopped drinking milk.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, my bones are fine.
Yeah. Cause it can also be like an allusion to, sort of a Peter Pan syndrome, childlikeness. As well. Yeah.
I always kind of assumed that was what they were going for in Halloween Ends.
Yeah.
Where he's trying to reclaim his innocence, but he keeps getting pushed into doing things. And if you look at him as a character, if you're familiar with the movie, it's an interesting take that if he had only gotten a chance to drink that chocolate milk, he wouldn't have done what he did.
Yeah. And in this case, me being also, as much as I like to dig into illusion, the practical matter is it was probably from a point of just contrast to show that he's been splashed. Like, bright white is an easy way to contrast against his blue pajamas.
I assumed it was
a simple solution.
I assumed Zelda had a glass of warm milk before bed.
Yeah.
is what was happening.
Anyway,
so
these bat boys come.
yes, dude. So they're Vyres, the gargoyle-looking bad boys, and they come at them with a bomb. The Vyres set the bomb under the Triforce, and it detonates. Knocks Link into a free fall, and Zelda, staying on that Spider-Man kick, she like swoops up and saves Link. The Triforce, it gets split into 3 fragments. The universe collapses, and then the show ends.
Yeah,
that's it.
That scene, just some impeccable athletics, calisthenics, and gymnastics between Zelda and Link, who were ostensibly asleep 30 seconds ago.
Dude, they could breed some strong kids.
Great work.
Yeah. They're in the best shape of their lives. So let's see. As the Vyres attempt to escape, Link grabs onto one and he zaps one and saves 1/3 of the Triforce pieces.
Mm-hmm. And which one of I think it's Zelda who makes the note about like, well, Vyres can't carry that load.
Yeah. It's so funny. I was trying to put this into words during the commentary, and if you'd like to listen to our commentaries, go ahead and visit us, patreon.com/campvideogames. You can get all sorts of commentaries of every episode of the Legend of Zelda series, and even more to follow. But it's the same discussion that they have in Monty Python and the Holy Grail, where the swallows cannot. Where did you get those coconuts?
Yeah.
Like, you can't, like, swallow can't carry a coconut from Africa or whatever. Yeah. I forget the full conversation.
Well, and I compared it to like one of them having, because this is a video game adaptation, it's like one of them has like a deep min-max understanding of like weight and encumberment
right.
of like every character. Like, they've memorized the bestiary.
Yeah. Okay. I want a little bit of clarification. When you say min-max, will you just give me kind of like a breakdown of what that actually like practically means as a gamer?
Yeah. It means, so it comes from like Dungeons and Dragons, and a min-max player is somebody who, instead of just engaging in like what's going to be most interesting for the story, they're sort of like studying the tables and what are the ways to like maximize my damage output, maximize like everything about the game numerically, in terms of like making my character as strong as possible against the math of the game.
Okay, that makes perfect sense, and that explains you as a gamer very well.
I'm working on it. I'm trying to engage more in the imagination and the world of it, but. As we record this, Diablo 4 comes out in 2 days.
Yep.
And that might bring back my min-max brain. Because that's 100% that game is numbers go up. How can I maximize numbers going
absolutely.
up?
I think actually the first time I ever experienced that kind of desire to do that as a gamer happened in Zelda 2, The Adventure of Link. Mm-hmm. Because there's a leveling system. And I discovered very quickly where Link would be able to farm for experience points. And that seems to be a part of it, I assume, is like farming for experience to get better equipment and to progress just as strong as possible.
Or it's like, a speedrunner will find the absolute, like solve the game.
Yeah.
In terms of like, what is the optimal way to output damage?
Yeah.
Even if it's a weird manipulation of some very underused mechanic or something,
Yeah. Junior Counselor Josh, thank you for that clarification. Okay. So Link, he saves 1/3 of the Triforce, and then holy cow, we get some big answers here. We find out that Link does, in fact, wear underwear when he's wearing his long t-shirt jammies. He's got some white boxers with red hearts on them. That's just classic.
Yeah,
classic cartoon
that's a straight
underwear.
out of Looney Tunes kind of thing.
I've never had that specific pair of boxers. The closest I had was a pair of blue boxers with green 4-leaf clovers on them.
All my boxers are goofy because I shop at MeUndies.com, who does not sponsor this show.
Yet?
But
maybe
let's see
yet,
if I got
maybe-
some. I have tie-dye on today, but the cheapest way to get them is to subscribe, and you get like, whatever the weird design you do next month is, just send it to me. So my whole collection is like that.
Hell yeah. So yeah, big answers in this episode. We find out that Link wears underwear.
Yeah.
Okay, so, and then we're introduced to some crazy Triforce logic. The Triforce pieces, so we had the Triforce of Wisdom. I assume it can't talk right now because it's been blown apart. Like, you know, it's so inconsistent in the show where sometimes the Triforce talks. It seems to only really speak when spoken to. And no word from the Triforce in this Triforce-centric episode.
Yeah.
But, okay, so they've got one of the 3 pieces of the Triforce. So Link zaps their piece that Zelda's holding, and it serves as a portal to the other 2 pieces, and the Vires carrying those Triforce pieces get zapped. So it's like the Valve game Portal.
I was just about to say, it's like the Portal guy.
I love Portal. Did you
Yeah.
play Half-Life?
So I played when the Orange Box came out.
Yeah.
My housemate at the time had an Xbox, and we rented it, and I blasted through Portal, and you know, it's a 4 or 5 hour game.
Yeah, it's a pretty quick play.
It's a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful game
Yes.
for the time. But
It holds up. It holds up. I played it last year. It's
I don't know if there was something about, like, there was a period of gaming where it was like, I don't know what it was about the combination of the design, like first person games, like the refresh rate and the frame rate and the camera motion was like, they just made me car sick for a period of about 10 years.
Maybe a bit too fluid.
I don't know what it is. I'm sure somebody has actually like documented this.
Yeah.
It's scientifically proven. Like,
I bet Action
this-
Button has a 7-hour video about it.
Yeah. That's like done.
With love, I say that.
Has done something because, like, I remember the first game I played was that did that to me was the sequel to Jedi Knight Dark Forces 2. I forget what it was called. And I was like, I can't play it for more than half an hour without getting motion sickness. But Portal was so good that I pushed through it.
Yeah.
And was just like in one sitting with my girlfriend at the time. I was like, we're going to beat this game. It's so good. The cake is a lie. I'm going to throw up.
Oh, man.
And I think I tried Portal 2, and I was like having the same experience and didn't finish it.
When at the height of the lockdowns in 2020, I downloaded pretty much like all of the big Valve games from the last like 25 years, and you know, so I started off with Half-Life, played Portal, played Half-Life 2, played Portal 2, and then I played all of the other Half-Life side games. And I'm, you know, like, as a guy who grew up playing Doom,
Yeah.
it's so nice to see like what happened to first-person shooters. I kind of missed that generation of games when they first came out, and yeah, to play through them just kind of recently, it was really, really nice to see just how far we've come.
Yeah.
Okay, back to Zelda.
I'm having fun.
Yeah, me too. You know what, campers? I hope you are too. So the 2 other Triforce pieces, one falls into an underground lake, and the other falls into a lava field. That's where the Vires were taking them. They were going to Ganon's palace.
And this is, I think another thing that's nice about this is like sort of prescient to the way future Zeldas would be designed, where the dungeons would all have a theme built around
Like an element.
an element or a force of nature.
I think that started with Ocarina of Time.
I was like Link to the Past. There was like the ice dungeon, the swamp dungeon.
You're totally right.
The forest dungeon. I don't remember if there's a fire one in the past off the top of my head. I've played that game a million times, but anyway, yeah, like this is sort of a prescient call to that. It's really interesting.
That's a good call. Okay, so now Link and Zelda are trying to figure out where the other 2 pieces are, and so they've got their Triforce pieces. They're one Triforce piece. They touch one side of it, and it's wet. They touch the
This is
other
great.
side
I
of
love
it,
this.
and it's hot. So those are clues to their location.
And this is still like basic Zelda puzzle.
Yeah.
Like, this is great.
You're given some
this day.
clues, but they're pretty broad, and they at least help you hone in on something to find the pieces. It's cryptic. In my notes I wrote cryptic, like the OG games.
Yeah.
So Link would rather just go back to bed at this point. He's like, well, whatever.
Get it in the morning.
Like, we got 1/3. Who cares? Like, you're not even gonna smooch. But Zelda spurs him into action, and they set off to rescue the remaining Triforce pieces. Okay, so back at the Piggy Palace, I actually have an update. I did a brief Google search of the words Piggy Palace, and it turns out there was a Canadian serial killer named Robert Picton who operated for like a ridiculously long time, and he ran a barbecue restaurant called the Piggy Palace.
Nice.
And it's been confirmed that he served human flesh at this barbecue joint, and that like people that were close to him, because he was like you can listen to you can listen to a series on him through last podcast on the left was how I did some like confirmation on this, but basically like this guy would kill people, feed their bodies to his pigs, or he would give quote unquote free meat to friends and associates. And one person got hepatitis after eating the meat that he gave them. And it was later revealed they did some DNA tests on his like bone saw, and they found fragments of human mixed in with pork.
And by 2017, he was running a little pizza place in Washington, D.C. called Comet Ping Pong.
Oh, man. I'm so glad that's not true. So back at the Piggy Palace, Ganon is so mad at the Vyres. He's got the zoomies. That's right.
He gets magic zoomies.
And so he's blinking around. And he's so mad because the Vyres don't remember where they dropped the Triforce pieces, and they're in the evil jar. They're floating around. It looks like they're hotbox in the evil jar, and Ganon's just blinking all over the place.
This might be my favorite Ganon moment in the series.
Man, he's got some good ones. I think he had some other like similarly really good moments in Sing for the Unicorn. Remember when he was like standing on the wall talking to the king?
That was okay. That's number one. This is number two.
He had some strong like David Bowie energy from Labyrinth in that one. Then Ganon has a plan, and I would describe this as a Ganondorf style tactic, which is he's just going to wait until Link and Zelda recover the other two Triforce pieces, and then he'll just sneak up, defeat them, and steal them. So it's like, it's exactly what Ganondorf does to young Link at the beginning of Ocarina. Like after you collected the Spirit Stones, you open the Temple of Time, and Ganon's like,
he's like,
yeah,
you're
dope.
a dumb kid.
He's like, good job, kid.
I
like,
can beat your ass.
You're my best employee. So Zelda uses her Triforce magic to uncover the hidden Piggy Palace entrance in the pool of water, and that's definitely a throwback to the first Zelda.
Yeah.
And actually in the second Zelda that also happens as well, where you can using magic, usually the magic flute. At least I know that specifically in Zelda 1, use a magic flute at a
to enter Dungeon 7 in the
lake.
Lost Woods.
God bless you. So yeah. Link gives Zelda 2 boomerangs as they descend into the dungeon. This is where it's like this is what you want out of a Zelda cartoon. You don't want Link to be mopping. You don't want to see him like putting on you don't want to see him like getting cucked by like a prince. Like all this stuff that the show does. Like I mean, granted, there's only so many different ways you can do this, but as
especially
Nintendo,
when they only had 2 source games at the point. Point to work from.
But as Nintendo has demonstrated in years after this, that you can tell the same story over and over again as long as you just like make it good. Okay, so Ganon summons some like a red, yellow, and blue colored beams to like seek out Zelda and Link.
I specifically noted, like, oh, they use yellow instead of green. It's like the first time they got the color coding wrong.
Yeah. That's interesting, actually. And then we get some like pretty cool like MC Escher like looks at the Piggy Palace.
Yeah. Or like the also MC Escher influenced Ancient Temple in Final Fantasy VII.
Oh yes, dude, that was so good.
Yeah.
Let's see, in the Ancient Temple there, just Final Fantasy VII like recap. That's where is that where Sephiroth steals the materia? Is that where he kills Aerith?
No, it's well, spoilers.
Jeez, I'm so sorry, everybody.
They find out the temple is the black materia. Kate Shee has to go in.
Oh yeah, and then
solve a series of puzzles that shrinks it down and destroys his body, and then a new body comes. It's very odd. It's a very odd moment in the game. I'm very much looking forward to how that plays out if it does in the remake, which that should be in the one coming out, Rebirth, by the end of this year.
We'll see, man. Like, what a weird way to release the game.
Yeah.
I understand that they had to keep the hype train going, so they released the first like segment. But
and it's so darn big.
It's just, I don't know. It's just, I mean, for the time in, what, 97 when Final Fantasy VII came out, like it was like at that point it was the biggest game I'd ever played.
Right.
Like, 3 discs. Jesus. Like, I just feel like gamers deserve like that. Like, if you're a first-time Final Fantasy VII player and you're going to play the new series, like, you should be able to have the full experience at your hand. I don't know. I'm not going to... I haven't even played the remake yet, so I can't...
That could be a later Camp Video Game series.
Oh, we'll get there, because there's actually some good Final Fantasy VII adaptations to talk about.
Of Final Fantasy VII adaptations.
Yeah, there's even... Oh, actually, a fun little... is this a side note of a side note? I just found out that there are novelizations of the first 3 Final Fantasy games.
Indeed.
And that's enough for me, man. I'll check it out. And there's, Final Fantasy VII, like, side story novelizations. It'd be great to get a full novelization from Cloud's perspective of the events of Final Fantasy VII, but that seems a bit daunting. Okay. Back in the Piggy Palace, Zelda uses a magic compass on the Triforce. And... it's nice to see that they're not only incorporating, it doesn't feel like a shoe in that they're incorporating elements from the game. Like, this works for the story that they're telling, that they're like, oh, well, we're in a dungeon, let's use the magical compass. Mm-hmm. It's why this type of episode is more appealing to a experienced Zelda gamer, where it's putting to action the things that you do in the game and making it feel relevant.
I think this sort of section is what I was saying at the beginning. It's very much building out a deeper visual of the extraction of imagination that was happening in your mind as a kid playing at the time.
Absolutely.
Before we had 3D Zelda and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. This is good. I mean, this is a good episode. I really enjoyed watching this. Link, he gets attacked by some ropes, which is the game's name for snakes, evil snakes. And Zelda boomerangs them as they constrict Link. Mm-hmm. But then Link starts blasting them. And that tells Ganon where they are. Because once the ropes get blasted, they're transported back to Ganon's evil jar. Ganon sees that these have been defeated, and he knows where in his palace that they were. So that's him inferring where Link and Zelda are through, through collecting that kind of information.
Yeah, real wise guy shit he's up to.
Zelda insists Link dive into the lake because, quote, he's the hero and he needs a bath.
Sure.
Let's see. He recovers the wet portion of the Triforce, but he gets attacked by an Aqua Mentis, which is a cool dragon unicorn Pegasus hybrid. Which is, I think, is that the first boss you fight in Temple 1 of the original Legend of Zelda? I believe the Aqua Mentis is the first boss you fight.
I believe so. Yeah. Yes.
Let's see. It's pretty fun. It's kind of like a rodeo for Link. He's riding this bucking Aqua Mentis, but then Zelda bombs them, and the bomb like explodes like right beneath the Aqua Mentis, and apparently there's like no shrapnel or like like concussion that would have killed Link. It just seems to be like an evil canceling bomb. No problem for Link, just bad for the Aqua Mentis, and apparently for the Triforce when it happened.
Yeah.
Man, this is a bomb heavy episode actually. Let's see. So they now have 2/3 of the they like snap together, and so now they've got 2/3 of the Triforce. A Gibdo, which is a mummy with like double D tits. Like I don't know why they decided to like give this
thick,
mummy
ready to nurse body there on that mummy.
This Gibdo attacks. It gets zapped, and Zelda tells Link to stop giving away their location. Like every time they do that, Ganon just he's able to hone in on where they are. They get to the lava field. So Link shield surfs. Shield surfs. That's a tongue twister.
Say that 5 times fast.
Shield surf, shield surf, shield surf, shield surf, shield surf. On the fire plume, he finds the other Triforce piece in the lava field. So there's like it looks like that cool big open room in the fire temple for Ocarina. You just got like fire shooting up in nice like jets, and Link scoops up the Triforce piece with his sword, and then Ganon appears.
Yeah, the physic logic of the shield surf, it makes no sense, but you roll with it, you have fun.
Yeah, absolutely.
It makes sense in a world again. I'm trying to avoid referring to Tears of the Kingdom too much, but in a world of Tears of the Kingdom physics, you're like, sure, why not? But at the time, you're like, what? That's not how shields work.
Link, he does what like the opposite you'd think of what the person protecting the Triforce would do, but it makes sense in the end where like Ganon shows up. Link, he's just like, here you go, Ganon. He like tosses him the Triforce piece fresh out of the fire.
Yeah.
And burns Ganon's hand, and his hands get fried. I bet that smelled so good, like chicharron.
Fresh Triforce, baked Triforce.
Some freshly seared pork.
Oh yeah.
And Ganon's hands get fried. And then Link like alley-oops the Triforce to Zelda, and she catches it with the other Triforce pieces, and now they got the full thing back.
Also, just a note of this fight have they established this more than once in the series? Because this feels very familiar. This idea of like, if I zap you 3 times, I win.
Yeah, they did that. They did that before, where Zelda was like, he's got one more zap, and then he's defeated. That's some silliness.
I don't know if that comes from maybe somebody correct me if I'm wrong. When you fight Ganon in the first game, you have to kind of like just poke around the room when he's showing up, and I think maybe it's 3 hits, and that's when he freezes, and you can hit him
with the silver arrow.
The silver arrow. I don't know. I assume
that sounds about right. I mean, like in any case, it's video game logic.
Yeah.
And let's see. Yeah. Actually, so Ganon and Link, they exchange some zaps. Link hits him twice, and he seems to know that the third is his max for his max health. Ganon then he burns in a ring of fire. Zelda boomerangs Ganon, and then Ganon summons a full column of fire in return. Link, he shield surfs that fire, scoops Zelda, and they escape that fiery piggy palace. And of course, in classic cartoon villain fashion, Ganon then swears revenge as he floats in an overcrowded evil jar. Here's a question. He's in there. What happens next? Like, does he just need like time? Does he need to wait for the blood moon?
All I know is he's got that Gibdo's Tiggles pressed right up against him, so he ain't too urgent to get out.
Maybe I'll just unwrap them a little bit.
Yeah, well, I think this is the first time that he goes in the evil jar after they quote unquote defeat him. I don't remember this happening
I
before.
believe we've seen it once before,
Okay.
but it's like that shows that he really like is going to be angry for the next episode.
Yeah, but either way, yeah, that's where he ends up, and it's pretty. For as much as I can get into a children's cartoon from 1989, like I'm like, yeah, that's a satisfying, well put together thing.
Yeah, that's Zelda as we want it and as we know it.
Yeah.
Campers, that's episode 8 of Underworld Connections. Nope, it's titled Underworld Connections, episode 8 of The Legend of Zelda, and we are super glad to have you here. We've almost like totally thrown out like the posturing of like us being camp counselors now, haven't we?
No, I'm sipping on juice boxes still.
Oh, you still got that surplus of juice boxes.
Yeah, baby.
What flavor of juice boxes is your favorite?
Oh, the blue, just blue, like anything blue flavored.
I like the government orange juice.
Yeah, but if it's like a blue flavor that you go, that doesn't exist in nature, that's the one for me.
That's not as goddess highly intended.
Unless it was sourced from the ancients and the power of wisdom, blue.
That's where you like the Sheikah choo choo jelly juice boxes.
Exactly. Anyway,
a choo choo box.
Yeah.
Campers, that's all we got for you this week. Be sure to write in if you got something to say. campvideogames@gmail.com. Give us a follow on Patreon, patreon.com/campvideogames. Follow us on Instagram you guessed it, Camp Video Games. That's it, folks.
If you'd like to write to us, send a message to campvideogames@gmail.com and follow us on Instagram @campvideogames. If you want to become a real happy camper, you can support Camp Video Games on Patreon. For $5 a month, you'll be granted access to even more discussions about movie-based video games, game-based movies, full-length commentaries, playthroughs, and more. Whether you sign up or not, we're glad to have you here at Camp Video Games.